The sun dipped low over Willow Creek, casting elongated shadows that danced along the cobblestone streets. Emma, a newcomer to the tight-knit community, stood on her porch sipping chamomile tea as she watched Ben, the local utility worker, make his rounds. His friendly wave and warm smile had become a comforting routine since she moved in. Yet, there was something in the way his eyes lingered a moment too long that sent a faint chill down her spine. She shook off the feeling, chalking it up to the unsettling quiet that blanketed the town at dusk. Emma had moved to Willow Creek seeking solace after a tumultuous year. The townsfolk, with their hearty laughs and open-door policies, had welcomed her with open arms. She found companionship in Mrs. Thompson, her elderly neighbor who filled her afternoons with tales of the town's history. But beneath the serene surface, Emma sensed an undercurrent of anxiety. In hushed tones, residents spoke of neighbors packing up and leaving without a word. Mrs. Thompson mentioned that the Millers, who lived 2 streets over, had vanished overnight, their house left untouched as if they planned to return but never did. One evening, as Emma returned from the market, she noticed Ben's utility van parked outside her home. "Evening, Emma," he called out cheerfully, just checking on a reported gas leak. She hadn't noticed any strange odors, but thanked him nonetheless. That night, sleep evaded her. Shadows seemed to creep along her bedroom walls, and the usual creaks of the house felt more pronounced. Around midnight, a faint humming noise roused her. Peering through the curtains, she spotted Ben's van idling at the corner, his figure barely visible in the driver's seat. A sense of dread settled in her stomach. Determined to quell her growing unease, Emma decided to investigate. She learned that each disappearance coincided with a visit from Ben. The more she dug, the more unsettling connections she uncovered. Friends she'd made in town stopped returning her calls. Mrs. Thompson grew distant, dismissing her questions with a wary glance. One stormy night, Emma spotted Ben entering a manhole near the town square. Curiosity overpowering caution, she followed at a distance, slipping into the darkness below just in time to see the hem of his uniform disappear around a bend. The air grew damp and cold, carrying whispers that echoed off the tunnel walls. Deep beneath Willow Creek, Emma stumbled upon a hidden chamber. Flickering torchlight illuminated grotesque symbols etched into the stone, and in the center stood an altar, stained dark with age. Ben was there, his friendly facade replaced with a sinister intensity as he chanted in a language she couldn't understand. Surrounding him were personal items belonging to the missing residents: a locket, a pair of glasses, a child's teddy bear. Horror gripped her as she realized these were trophies of his victims. A floorboard creaked under her foot, and Ben's eyes snapped open, locking onto hers with a predatory gaze. "Emma," he purred, a twisted smile creeping across his face. "I was hoping you'd join us." She turned to flee, but the labyrinthine tunnels disoriented her. The sound of his footsteps echoed behind her, methodical and unhurried. Her heart pounded in her chest as she darted down one passage after another, the walls closing in. Just as his shadow loomed over her, she burst through a grate and into the town graveyard. Rain lashed down, and thunder roared as she scrambled among the tombstones. Ben emerged, his figure illuminated by a lightning flash, revealing a grotesque transformation. His eyes black as coal, and features contorted beyond recognition. Cornered, Emma's mind raced. Desperate, she grabbed an iron rod from a nearby grave marker. "Stay back!" she screamed, brandishing it before her. Ben laughed, a sound that chilled her to the bone. "They never learn," he hissed. As he advanced, a blinding light suddenly enveloped them both. Emma shielded her eyes, and when she looked again, Ben was writhing, his form flickering like a faulty projection. Behind him stood Mrs. Thompson, holding a luminescent pendant that pulsed with energy. "You can't have her," the old woman said fiercely. With a final, agonized scream, Ben dissolved into the darkness, leaving only silence in his wake. Breathless, Emma sank to the ground. "What? How did you—" she stammered. Mrs. Thompson helped her to her feet, her eyes gentle yet weary. "Ben was no ordinary man. We've been battling his kind for generations," she explained. "The pendant is a relic of protection, but its power is fading." Emma realized that the townspeople's secrecy was not born of ignorance but of protection. They had been shielding newcomers like her from a horror they hoped to contain. "Why didn't you tell me?" Emma asked, a mix of relief and betrayal in her voice. Mrs. Thompson sighed. "Would you have believed me?" In the days that followed, the atmosphere in Willow Creek shifted. The disappearances ceased, and a sense of normalcy returned. Emma became an integral part of the community, now fully aware of the unseen forces that lingered on the periphery of their lives. Together with Mrs. Thompson and others, she joined the quiet guardianship over the town, determined to keep the shadows at bay. The friendships she forged were deeper, bonded by the shared knowledge of what they had overcome. And though the sun shone as brightly as ever over Willow Creek, Emma knew that true darkness was not in the absence of light, but in the secrets that people keep, and the courage it takes to face them.